Alrighty, let's get into deductive reasoning, and we are going to talk about, you want to be able to differentiate between inductive and deductive reasoning, and we want to use the law of detachment and syllogism. Technically, we want to put more emphasis on syllogism, but we shall see. Okie dokie. So, first off, deductive reasoning uses facts, rules, definitions, or properties to reach logical conclusion from given statements. Most of what you do when you're proving is deductive reasoning. Inductive reasoning uses patterns or observations, which can have its own flaws. So, kind of keep that in mind. So, what are some examples? So, on these next couple of examples, I want you to decide if the conclusion was reached using inductive or deductive reasoning. So what I did here was I took a picture, and let's look at this. All of the signature items, and yes, go ahead and write all of this. Don't be lazy. All of the signature items on the restaurant's menu shown are noted with a special symbol. Kevin orders a menu item that has this symbol next to it. So he concludes that the menu item that he has ordered is a signature item. So keep in mind, this right here is like our conclusion, obviously. Was that derived by inductive reasoning or deductive reasoning? And the answer here is that one is derived from deductive reasoning, because it does state that the property, or there's a rule that if there is a special symbol, they are a signature item. Now, look at the next one. Every time Raul goes to a restaurant on Thursday, cheese supreme is the special. Raul goes to the restaurant on a Thursday, so he concludes that cheese supreme will be a special. Now, see, Raul got this idea about going on a Thursday, he always gets cheese supreme as a special. That's a pattern. He observes this pattern that happens all the time, so he arrived at that conclusion through inductive reasoning. Okay, so keep that in mind. That is the kind of the difference. Are they using a rule, a property, or are they coming through it through observation? That's the big question. All right, so finding examples is enough to disprove a conjecture. I mean, it works, but it is not a logically correct or valid method of proving a conjecture. So in other words, just because you couldn't find a counterexample doesn't mean that the thing that you're trying to prove is true. You kind of need to you need to come up with, some type of reasoning to prove it's true. So that's where, here, we have the law of differentiation and syllogism to help us out. Okay, so here, law of detachment. Law of detachment is basically one form of deductive reasoning. It states simply, if P such that Q, or P is to Q, is a true statement, and P is true, then we all assume Q is true. In other words, like this. Here's a given. Notice how you always have to be given something to prove. If a car is out of gas, then it will not start. Sarah's car is out of gas. Okay, so this green part is like this right here. That whole, like a general statement. And then we've got, say, this part about Sarah's car in orange is the part that's the P, assuming that's true. So we're saying, okay, if I have all of this, and we know Sarah's car does this, it's like a more specific example, then I can come up with a valid conclusion that Sarah's car will not start because she's out of gas. And the purple there would be this part of this law of detachment. Okay? Let's look at an example of one that is by geometry. Okay, so in purple, I've got the general if-then statement. If two angles form a linear pair, then their non-common sides form opposite rays. So we're assuming that is true. We have to go with that as being true. Angle AED and AEB form a linear pair. So there's a more specific example. Okay, so there was the general, then we get a specific example. So what can be a valid conclusion from that? That ED and EB are opposite rays. Okay, based on that's what matches, that conclusion there matches the Q of the general statement. Okay, so that would be my valid conclusion. So that's how we can kind of come up with something like that. Now, what about law of syllogism? Got tongue-tied. Is another form of deductive reasoning. Yeah. And what it basically says, if P is to Q, then Q is to R, such that Q is to R, are true. Statements are true statements, then P to R is also a true statement. For example, if, I'm going to back this up a bit. If you get a job, then you will earn money. If you earn money, then you will buy a car. Okay, so based on this, what we're saying is a valid conclusion is that if you get a job, then you will buy a car. Using the law of syllogism, you can say that because you're kind of eliminating that middleman. Well, okay, so keep in mind, what is P? P is if you get a job. Q is you will earn money. Notice that that happens, it gets mentioned twice. And then R is at the very end saying you will then buy a car. So the valid conclusion you can make is basically get rid of the Q and put the P and R together. So you can say if you get a job, then you will buy a car. Okay, putting the P and the R together. Plain and simple. That's it. Okay, so here's one more example, and this will be my last example. If you are an actor, then you will enjoy musicals. If you enjoy musicals, then you enjoy theater productions. I just had to say it like that. Why not? Anyways, so if you're an actor, then you enjoy musicals. If you enjoy musicals, then you enjoy theater productions. So which of these two statements, the orange one or the red one, is the valid conclusion? If you enjoy musicals, then you are an actor. If you're an actor, then you enjoy theater productions. The orange one is invalid because it kind of goes backwards. Like it takes the R, or it actually takes the Q, and like it kind of, it's like a, it's basically an inverse. Like it's flipped things around. Flip the Q and the R. That's our Q and the P. So it doesn't go logically from an actor to theater productions. Remember, what happens here in law of syllogism is that these two are basically going to get joined. Okay, and we're assuming all of that's true. So if you look at the next one, if you are an actor, then you enjoy theater productions. Well, look, I've joined those two. I kept the P first and the R last, which is what I want to do. And there you go. So that is a valid conclusion. So we're going to practice with this because I want y'all to get a good idea on this, and then maybe we'll hopefully be able to get a test about this, or we'll be looking at maybe some basic proofs before we do that. I'm not quite sure, but we shall find out. Anyways, that's it for today, guys. If you have a chance, thank you for listening. Thank you for paying attention, and I will see y'all later. Take care.